Hey, music lovers. Welcome to the Long Island Sound Podcast. Get ready for a journey of music discovery. Hey, let's get to it. Welcome to the year-end buffet of the Long Island Sound Podcast. I hope you have a good appetite because it has been a fantastic year, and this is what you can expect in this episode. I've interviewed over 49 people this past year, and I've picked out some of the highlights of some of the real memorable episodes. Each episode is very memorable to me, but we've had such a fantastic time. And I want to thank my guests. I'm so excited. Thanks for introducing me to your friends and taking a chance to be interviewed by me on the Long Island Sound Podcast. So many great stories. Stick with us.
Are you ready for the ultimate podcasting adventure? The Long Island Sound Podcast offers you not one, but two ways to engage with our captivating content. Tune in to our audio podcast on your favorite platform and let your imagination paint vivid pictures of Long Island stories. Or if you're craving a visual feast, catch our video podcast on Spotify and on the Long Island Sound YouTube channel. Double the options, double the excitement.
Hey, we're back, and I really got to tell you about some of the great artists. I went through the list, and I'm still kind of amazed that we were able to get this accomplished with everyone's busy schedule. But let me start off with Chris Marshak. Chris Marshak is one of the nicest guys. He's a drummer producer from the East End of Long Island. He played on the Steve Winwood album, and later in the year, he came on the podcast and brought along a guest, a guy named Mark Burford of Blue Point Brewery. Check out this reel from the episode.
So there's this term that said that craft beer is the first successful open source endeavor by mankind.
Have you been involved in mentoring? Is that something you have aspirations to do? Do you see yourself mentoring?
I can easily. It's part of what craft beer was. So when I started 70s and 80s, there wasn't any schooling for craft beer, and there wasn't any stuff in the libraries, right? It was when it's a little bit of a story, but when they repealed Prohibition in 1933, they left the word beer out of it. So it was illegal to make beer at home until 1978. What happened because of that is it was illegal. It was like contraband. So there were no books in the library. There was no way to get information, right? The brewmasters were all from overseas universities. We didn't have any schooling in the U.S. So there's this term that said that craft beer is the first successful open source endeavor by man, right? So a lot of words, but I live that.
I tell you, I learned some amazing things at every episode, and I hope you're really enjoying the episodes that we put out for you. There are a few other people I want to talk about. One of my early guests this year is a really great guy. He is a blues master. He's really got a fantastic story. I saw him at Stony Brook, and he's involved all over the place. He plays with very well-known people from Manhattan to out east, and he's also involved in the Long Island Blues Festival, which was in Riverhead this past year, and it looks like it's going to be out there again, I believe, in the spring, and that's Kerry Carney. Kerry is such a gem. He had so many great stories. Here's a quick highlight from that episode.
So I'm hearing this music, and I walk downstairs and I peek in, and it's Big Brother and the Holding Company. Without Janice, of course, another woman playing. But every guy in the band still goes to playing. It's like, wow. So I'm looking through the glass, and the guitar player like waved me and like, hey, come on in, what's going on? And I was like, how you doing? I was like, yeah, I'm Kerry. I'm Marty's new guitar player. You know, I'm playing with him. And they're like, oh, great, blah, blah. So we started talking guitar. And all of a sudden that night, I had a gig with him.
Sticking with the blues genre, I met this lady at the warehouse in Amityville when they were doing a fundraiser for the contest to send musicians for the big blues contest in Memphis. And she was gracious enough to join me on the show. And that's Pamela Betty. Pamela Betty is just amazing. She had a great story about how she kind of backed into the music business, and she's been going strong ever since. I think she's got a hat line out now as well, as I see it on Facebook and different social media. So I want to say hi to Pamela Betty, and thanks so much for really being on the program. Now, we covered the blues. Let's move into country this past year. fantastic guest, a duo, a guy named Walter Finley, originally from Long Island, and his partner, April Dawn. What an amazing story. A man, dedicated, full-time musician, and it was really heartwarming to me to see that, there was an angel investor in getting his first album off the ground. And he told Walter, hey, Walter, you're really a country singer-songwriter. You should go down south and figure it out. And he sure did. Has won many awards in the Carolina Music Associations, and he's hosted a few things along with April Dawn. It was my pleasure to interview them and then get to see them at the Oakdale Yacht Club this summer. Many times I don't get to see performers in person till after the interview. So I always tell them, if there's this old white-haired guy coming up to you, it's probably me. So it's always kind of neat just to meet these people in person after spending an hour with them, talking about what they love, their music and their struggles, and how they've been really successful in all their own different ways. So Walter Finley and April Dawn, here's a quick clip.
There are people in my life that I was witnessing and seeing, not so much for younger folks, but for people who were a little bit older and they were looking at me doing what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Because my whole life I was told, you're just too old. By the time I was 29, record companies were like, we love what you do, but you're just too old for us.
Wow.
I literally, and I often reflect back and then why did I keep going? Because I love music. I love to play, and there's nobody that can stop me from playing and performing. It's,
Mm-hmm.
just because I'm not on The Voice, winning The Voice, or getting noticed doesn't mean I suck, right?
Right.
That was the shame of that show. I was like, people judge people for singing, and singing's not something to be judged.
Got to tell you another story. Usually guests refer other guests, and that's kind of cool. Now, I had an opportunity. I reached out to the famous Eppie Epstein of My Father's Place, which is now back in the Roslyn Hotel. And I got to share a conversation with you. I was talking to Eppie. He was very animated about podcasting, and he referred me to a guy named Derek Adam. Derek Adam is originally from upstate New York and settled down here on Long Island. Can this guy shred the electric guitar? It is so amazing. Here's a quick clip from Derek Adam.
Sound. Will we ever know? but I'm not trying to be the last in line. And all I want is some peace of mind. This I know, it's our home.
So in 2022, I had the opportunity of meeting the fabulous Gene Casey. Gene Casey does what's called new country and rockabilly. Fantastic, humble guy, tall guy too. And I went to see him play out in Sag Harbor. And he was nice enough to bring me backstage and introduce me to probably the hardest working musician that I know. And that's Nancy Atlas. If you go down Nancy Atlas's resume of who she's played with, it'll just blow your mind. Elvis Costello, Jimmy Buffett, Paul Simon, just to name a few. She is the standard bearer of the house band for Stephen Talkhouse, and I did get to see Nancy in person, and what an energetic show. Here's a tip from Nancy during our interview. Check it out.
Like John Cleary from New Orleans, who I'm such a huge fan of. That's Jon, John Cleary. Phenomenal musician. He won a Grammy for kind of authentic Louisiana music. He's just killer. And he was saying, like, that's all well and good, but I still got to raise the money to get the recording. I still got to, do all these things. And I think that is probably the one part of it all that becomes exhausting. You still got to do it.
Right.
You don't want to complain. You're not picking up garbage every day. I mean, every job is hard, so you might as well do something you love. But when people just see the playing of live music is the easy part, it's all the other stuff that make being a professional musician incredibly challenging. And so my hat's off to all of my fellow professional. My hat's off to the Gene Caseys and the Andy Aladorets and the Winston Irie and the Inda Eatons and the Caroline Doctorowes and all of my fellow professional musicians, because, all that said, Steve, it's still worth it.
One of my favorite pop musicians from Long Island is the Como brothers, who introduced me to Sam Wolf of American Idol fame. Sam Wolf was on American Idol about 15 years ago. He's got perfect pitch. He's a nice guy. He lives in New York City now. And the Cuomos, Matt and Andrew Cuomo, have had a collaboration with Sam Wolf where they've done songs together. They have social media nailed down, in my opinion. And here's a quick snippet from the conversation with the Como brothers and Sam Wolf.
With the three of us, I feel like Sam's like our brother. We've known him for so long, and I really feel that way, Sam, where it's like your family, and we just get along so well that the songs keep flowing, and we work really well together, but we also have good hangs and stuff. So, yeah, you're going to see a lot of good stuff coming from us as well.
So if you're a follower or a new follower of the Long Island Sound podcast, you'll realize that we cover all different genres, from the up-and-coming original singer-songwriters to the well-established as well. One of my favorite guys is a guy named Pete Mancini, who I got to know. And Pete is just a fantastic singer-songwriter. He's also Jimmy Webb's, I would say, right-hand man, and opens up for Jimmy Webb. Jimmy Webb from the famous Wichita Lineman, Up and Away, and many other songs. He lives in Bayville on Long Island, which was a surprise to me. But Pete has been really fantastic. And just a little behind the scenes story, I was with Pete Mancini out at the Long Island Music Hall of Fame, and you haven't been, you got to check it out. Great Billy Joel exhibition going on there now. And I remembered Pete was a big fan of the Gin Blossoms. I was fortunate enough, I couldn't believe this, to interview Robin Wilson. He's the lead singer both of the Gin Blossoms and the Smithereens. And Pete was a big fan and said the Gin Blossoms influenced his career. So I asked Pete to co-host with me on the episode with Robin Wilson, and he was a lifesaver. He really helped us do a deeper dive into the Gin Blossoms and really everything about Robin Wilson. So, but Pete Mancini, in his own right, is a great singer-songwriter. He came out with an album about Gene Clark, and he wrote a song about Gene Clark, the original one of the original guys from the Byrds, and it was just a great compilation album that he put together with a producer called Bill Herman from Paradiddle Records. And I got to interview both those guys. What great gentlemen, what great albums Bill Herman puts together on Paradiddle Records. He's done Bob Dylan Uncovered 1, 2, and 3, and I think he's coming out with a fourth. He's covered the Kinks Uncovered, and he did a great album about Hank Williams. And that really blew me away. Hank Williams Uncovered had some 60-odd musicians from Long Island doing their different takes on Hank Williams music. And what really made me so excited about listening to this 2-CD set was I never realized how much Hank Williams gave to us in music, and hearing the wellspring of talent from Long Island interpreted, it was great. So back to Pete Mancini. He wrote a song for the Gene Clark tribute album called Silent Troubadour, which really kind of sums it up. And here's a little snippet from my interview with Pete Mancini and Bill Herman. But you know what I'm interested in now is when you tell me that there's chemistry between you and Rich, okay, and it's great that you captured it on, digitally, but that chemistry lives on in a live performance, and that's something to behold. So I'm encouraging everybody who's listening to this, stop, hit pause, go into the description, if you're in a car, pull over first, hit pause and look in the description and get your tickets to this, because it's going to be a fun time. Pete is just a fantastic singer. My daughter Faith spun the table on me and sat in and interviewed your humble host for a segment of the Long Island Sound podcast, and she's the joy of my heart, and it was so great to have her take over the microphone and ask me questions for a change about why I do this podcast. Here's a snippet.
So I'm really excited for this opportunity because ever since you started, doing the Long Island Sound, doing the show is so Dad, it's so Steve, and I think that people have such a personal connection to music, and especially someone who recommends music to them. I think personally a lot of, my favorite artists come from people who I know and people who I care about recommending music to me. So I thought it would be a really cool opportunity for your listeners to kind of get to know you a little bit better.
Faith also mentioned to me, hey, Dad, you got to get some of the younger acts that are out there. And I forget how I got introduced to these guys, Nonstop to Cairo. It's kind of like a hip hop, ska, hard rock band. These guys were fantastic. They just came out with an album this past year called Kai, dedicated to one of their late band members. And it was really so great to talk to these guys. Here's a quick snippet. With music today, and I like the fact that you guys put out a single first as a teaser to keep your fans enticed, my assumption, and then came out with this album. And albums are rare, by the way, to come out with albums. A lot of people go the EP route, but I feel for you guys because really to make it, you've got to play. You got to play out to bring the revenue in, or if you're selling merch or anything like that, because you're not let's face it, you're not going to make it on streaming unless all of a sudden somebody picks you up, right?
Right.
And says, hey, check out these guys from that episode.
What the hell did I do? And what did I say? I got another good reason to be down on myself.
Over the summer, I had the opportunity of going to the Great South Bay Music Festival for the first time. I spent 3 days there. I met James Faith, who's also one of the board members in the Long Island Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame. James Faith, who puts this whole thing together, does bookings at the Iridium as well as at the Space in Westbury, was generous enough to spend some time with me to talk about the festival, and he also introduced me to a few of the acts. Here's a little snippet of my conversation with James Faith. Were there any real heartaches or at all, or does it run fairly smoothly for you?
Well, I mean, and you're 100% right. When politics is with you, it's like a wave taking you. You know, the wave takes you, and everything is a lot easier. When it's against you, you know, when I first got there, it was with me, and we were great. We went from no shows before I was there to 15 shows. B.B. King Blues Festival, Alice Cooper and Cheap Trick. We were bringing in tons of shows.
You know, they say to scale your audience in a podcast, it's always great to get on somebody else's podcast. I was so honored to be on the Long Island Tea. It's part of Discover Long Island. It's kind of like the Commerce Department for Long Island. They do plenty to promote everything that happens in this great area of the country. And I sat down with the ladies for a few minutes to talk about the diversity of music on Long Island. Here's a quick snippet. Yeah, you know what it is? I feel like I'm just hitting the tip of the iceberg when it comes to that. And I just got to tell you really quickly how I came up with the Long Island Sound podcast. Mm-hmm. It was from a Billy Joel speech at the Long Island Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame, where he said, hey, you know what? The Long Island Sound is more than a body of water that separates us from Connecticut. And boom, the light bulb went off. I Googled it right away, and I'm like, holy mackerel, nobody else has got this name. You know, it's interesting to talk to the veterans of the music industry to find out what they did to put their bands together and how they conquered the music industry during their time. One of my fantastic guests was JJ French of Twisted Sister. He is a real popular speaker in business, and he came out with a new book, and he spent some time with me on the podcast. Check this out.
Record label Atlantic, who had said basically you suck, and the president of Atlantic saying to people that we suck, and if anyone mentions their name, they'll be fired. I mean, it couldn't get any worse than that. You know, your record label president telling you if you mention the name again. In fact, my podcast, the JJ French Connection, the first record company president I have was my A&R guy, Jason Flom.
Wow.
He was 19 years old, and he tried to sign the band and was threatened with being fired by mentioning the name Twisted Sister.
So I like to cover all different genres. I like to broaden my horizons on the music discovery journey that I'm on. And I've had a few punk bands and a heavy metal band this past year on the program. One of my favorites is Bad Mary. And I tell you, it's such an eclectic group, a professor, a husband and wife team, and a dad on drums. Can't get better than that. They do some really fantastic music videos. You'll see them on really all different social media. Bad Mary. Check out this interview.
Don't give me bad vibes, I'll kill my own things. When it comes to bad times, I'm down.
I'll end with one of the highlights of this past year, and that was my interview with Robin Wilson of Gin Blossoms. And Robin was inducted into the Long Island Music and Entertainment Hall of Fame. And when I first heard that, I'm like, hey, isn't that an Arizona guy? Isn't that an Arizona band? I pulled in Pete Mancini because he said, hey, they influenced me. And he joined me as a co-host on the interview with Robin. Robin was so generous to talk about his music, how he also fronts for the Smithereens, and how by chance from a record store, he was able to join a local band that really hit the charts in a big way. I got to talk to him about Jon Stewart, about his first wife, who was one of the people on Saturday Night Live, who brought the Gin Blossoms to Saturday Night Live, and also to Jon Stewart's Comedy Central show. So here's a snippet from that. Check it out. Hey, I am here with Robin Wilson of the Gin Blossoms. It's a big night tonight. He's getting inducted to the Long Island Hall of Fame. Tell me how you're feeling, Robin.
I'm doing very well, remarkably well, considering this is a great honor. I'm really thrilled about it, and my whole family is here, and my girlfriend, and I've got a lot of grenades in the air that I'm juggling right now, but it's just going to be a relaxed, good time, just going to do a rock show like the old days.
Nice. I heard a little bit of the sound check, and I tell you, it sounds really good. So I'm really looking forward to a wonderful night here. And, your influence has been really great. But I want to tell you something. When I interviewed you, you talked about wanting to be a front man. But you're a front man of two bands. So tell us about that.
Well, I've been singing for Gin Blossoms for 35 years now. And then for about 5 years now, I've been singing for the Smithereens. And so I'm really lucky that the Smithereens could be here because they live in nearby New Jersey. Nice. And so they're here performing with me tonight. Our bass player, Mike, couldn't be here, so we have legendary bass player Graham Maybe sitting in tonight with the Smithereens, and my son's going to get up there with him as well, and it's going to be a very cool show.
Sounds like it's going to be a fun time. I want to say congratulations again, and break a leg, okay? All right, be well. Well, I didn't cover everybody. I'd really love for you to check out the Long Island Sound podcast. We have a listener line. Please give us a ring. Send us an instant message. Tell us who you want to see on this podcast. We have some exciting guests lined up for 2024. If you have a musician, an artist, somebody in the music industry who you think will benefit by expanding their audience out on the Long Island Sound, I'm happy to talk to them about it. Just send me an email, steve@gigdestiny.com. And as I always say, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate the time you spent with us. Please subscribe and comment and visit us at gigdestiny.com. Till next time, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music take you on a journey. Be well. Peace.